Five.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Vibe Time with Geri. My co host, David Flowers. Say
Hey,
hi,
y'all.
David.
Hi, David.
And of course, the infamous John Stevens, founder of Virginia Paranormal Events.
Last time you said that, you cued the hand clap and
Oh, yes.
the cheer.
Oh, yeah. I gotta find it. You're absolutely right. Thank you for reminding me of that, Snowball.
I think you ought to use it for every guest that you have. I think it's a great touch.
Yeah, you know what? I forget it's down there and that I can actually use it. So you're absolutely right. I should, because every guest that comes on Vibe Time with Geri is special.
Yeah,
It's your favorite.
They wouldn't. They wouldn't be coming on the show if they weren't good.
Yes. Yeah. I don't let just any old body on my show. Isn't that right,
You let me
Flowers?
on there. You let me on there.
Is there a reaction to that one? Is there a reaction anywhere? No. Dang it. Wait.
Crap. You're going to be having some fun. So if somebody makes a bad comment, you're just like, this is my reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So how y'all been? Tell me about what's been happening at the Manor House.
Before we start that, we are in the studio, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to triple check it and make sure.
I have no idea what that meant, but
Yeah. Well, our numbers are pretty decent for the month that being in September. We still got some decent numbers, and we had a private investigation Friday night, and it was kind of interesting.
Who was
It was just a couple of guests.
that wanted
Carlos
to
Armstrong and
His
Carlos
wife,
Armstrong and his wife. Yeah.
D.
D.
wow.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They had been on a bunch of different tours of ours, and so we just do it. We just did a little private investigation for them Friday. So yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
Um,
And yeah, Jerry's going through her body cam and said might have got a few things down in the basement.
Yeah.
that's always good when you get a chance to go to the basement.
Yeah.
But so the crowds have been good, huh?
Oh yeah. Definitely been good.
Hey, Gene.
I can't see anything.
Hey, Gene. How you doing tonight?
Now we lost Geri.
Yeah,
Hey, Ronnie.
she's rebooting.
Oh, there she came.
Yeah.
Hey,
Ronnie, how you going?
Manor House is always interesting because you never know what you're going to get there. But they got some really good EVPs when I reviewed them. So just different questions. One of the questions was, "Do you like Marines?" And in the SB7 box, there's a mail that goes, "No." So I thought that was interesting. I laughed at that one because just prior to that, we had a group of Marines in doing an investigation in there on the tour, and they got that heavy breath that we got off that bench when Dave and I was talking about his hearing. They got that heavy breath, the same heavy breath that we did. They got a couple good things, and the dad got so excited he came to tell us. And the guy that was in there, he was like Vicente's age, or he's like, "Are you fucking kidding me right now? You're leaving me by myself in here." And I'm thinking to myself, "But you're a Marine, buddy," and it scared the shit out of him. Yes, it is very moist out, Gene.
Hi, Tina.
Hi, Tina.
But yeah, they got some really good stuff. I thought I had already downloaded that footage from them too. I'm gonna have to review my 2 sets of body camera footage before I ditch it to make sure that their stuff isn't on there, which I don't think that it is, but I'm not sure. Yeah.
It's always
Ooh.
stuff happening there.
Yeah.
But y'all been having some good crowds, it seems.
Yeah.
That hasn't really dropped off. With y'all are doing just Monday and Saturday nights now, right?
Yeah, it's just Mondays and Saturdays.
Is that back at 8 o'clock?
No,
Still
we're still 9 o'clock. They've got something going. The sales department, they've got something going on before ours, so we can't do it until 9.
Well, you know, 9 is not bad if you, especially when you have families that are staying there, because that gives them a chance to get out to get something to eat and then get back and have plenty of time to, walk on over. And
Yeah.
Yeah, but 9 o'clock sucks when you have to get up at 5:30 in the morning.
it does that. It does that.
But a lot of people are happy, so it's worth it. It's,
Yeah.
The people are just happy about it. So they have a lot of fun with it. And
Yeah, last night's group was really good.
mhm,
It's a bunch of nice old people.
yeah, very nice people.
Do you get people giving their own stories? You ever have people come up to you and say, "Hey, this is what's been happening," or
All
"This
the
is
time.
what I experienced"?
Mhm.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
like to share their ghost stories,
Oh,
Yeah, they do. Especially when they find out we actually have a paranormal team. We're not just a bunch of interpreters telling stories.
Right.
There's enough of
And
those.
yeah, and it's funny because that's sometimes what they expect. And then once we show them the slideshow and things like that, then they're like, oh, that's not this type of tour, because they're able to use the equipment and we don't charge them for that. They get to use it for free. And a lot of places charge you to use their equipment, at least $5 to $7 to use a K2 meter. And like David said, they don't even show you how to really use it. So, but people find it interesting. They have fun. The kids have fun, because as kids are into the paranormal stuff too, with all these shows out there, and it's safe for them to investigate out there. And so kids like it as well. It makes them feel, hey, I'm doing the real deal here. And it's fun to see families get together and form their own little team and do their own little ghost hunt. That's what makes it so neat and special.
Yeah.
It's I would encourage people if they came up to me and said, I really like doing this kind of thing, but there's just no place around me that does this kind of thing, or where do I go to get it investigate? Where can I go to investigate? Or I've actually had people at work say, I live in Richmond, and where can I go and do investigations? And that just segues into me telling them about my page, but also sharing some of the places that locally that do that are doing things all the time. Obviously, the cabin, but I have told people about the Manor House down in Williamsburg several times, because I don't consider that
Hey, Paul.
a long way.
Hey, Paul.
No, it's not. It's not.
But that's that's good. I always like to know what's going on at the manor house. It's again, you never know who's going to come to those things, and it's always these people are really hesitant. They don't know what to expect.
Right.
And then they get in there and they get told some good ghost stories. They get to see stuff used before them. It's more than just being told ghost stories,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You can take ghost tours and they can take you down a street or something like that and point out various things. Those are all fun. There's no doubt about that. But to be in an actual haunted house,
Right.
with some history to it, and being on those grounds, it just kind of, I tell people sometimes, some close friends of mine, they were like, yeah, every time we go, we never get anything. And I was like, how do you know you're not getting anything? Well, we don't hear anything. I was like, how do you know you don't hear anything?
Right.
Or, you could bring out your phone and record things, but you have to go back and you have to listen. You have to listen real carefully.
Mm-hmm.
Because most of the time there's stuff there. Really is.
Yeah.
Most of the time there's stuff there.
Yeah. And that's what happened to those little Marines the other day. They did not realize just how much evidence they caught, not just on the SB7 box, but off of it. It wasn't just Class A answers coming through on that box. There was Class A answers coming through behind the scenes that you have to really listen for, that because you're focusing on that box, you're so excited to see if you hear anything. You can't tune in to the rest of everything there. So that's why I posted that video, because I felt that it was unique in the fact that they got stuff on the box, but they got stuff off of that box, and I heard it with my naked ear, and I'm going, hello, Ronnie. I'm going, oh my God. And it's the same thing with Carlos and his wife Dee that did their investigation Friday night. There's stuff in the SB7 box, but I'm listening, fine tuning for outside, and I hear certain things. I'm going, oh, this is wild. But you can't possibly hear it with the naked ear when you got an SB7 box rolling. You can't.
Yeah.
So it's very
and that's
interesting.
Yeah, and that's why we tell everybody every single tour, record everything.
Yeah. Yep. All of our tours are recorded. Every single one of them tours are recorded, and there's a reason for it. There's a reason. And we've gotten really good evidence, and our guests are, getting a lot of evidence.
Yeah, the deep breaths are the ones that kind of go unnoticed a lot, and those sighs and things like that. That's not really a verbal word. It's more or less a something is mouthed, like,
Yep.
or even a no or yes, but in a whispered sound. And most times people are not listening for that sort of thing. They're not that in tune to it.
Right. And that heavy breath that guy got the other day, you couldn't help but to hear that one. I mean, that was so loud. And even the son was like, did you just hear that too? So that, like I said, that's why I posted it, because I felt that it was a really, it was a credible EVP. I mean, there's raw feelings with them. It's just raw feelings. It's, that's why I posted that.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking back on the things that have happened here recently, and we just had Pamplin, the investigation at Pamplin Park this past
Nice.
weekend,
That's right.
and it looked like a very good crowd. Sorry, I couldn't make it, but it was, it looked like a really good crowd, and a lot of cool people that we know were there, and it sounds like everything went great.
Yeah. Pamplin is just such a wonderful place too. I mean, I wish it wasn't so far from my house, but it's just such a beautiful park.
Geri, it is far for everybody.
Mhm.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not close to anybody that I know.
Yeah.
And it's out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, but it's a beautiful park.
Chris Banchero has been really pleased with the way things have been going.
Good.
And I meant to ask him, he may come on here tonight. I saw where I don't know if it's the American Battlefield Trust had offered to purchase Pamplin, which would be great.
Wow.
Because I heard the current owner was looking to sell, but he was one of the groups that had stepped forward was American Battlefield Trust, and they had made an offer. I don't know if that's going to go through or where they're at with that. He would probably have more details. And I'm saying American Battlefield Trust. I don't know if it's them or not, but I thought it was. And they get involved with purchasing land. They purchased a lot of land around Richmond and surrounding, and in Enrico, in Mechanicsville. So when given the opportunity for them to grab a piece of historic property, they try to do it. So it'd be great that it stays. From what I understood is the owner wants to sell it to keep it as a park, as a historical park. Now, there are some new places opening around Richmond, out in the eastern part of Richmond, off of 895, which is in Verina, and off of Route 5. There's the old Jimmy Dean plantation has been purchased by, I believe it's by the county of Enrico, and they're going to turn it into a park. And it's about 1,000 acres, and with a huge lake on it, big enough to do motor sports on that lake. That's how big it is. But that piece of property is very historical because it's on the James River. But they there's a lot of Indian artifacts, a lot of Civil War stuff going on, and so the best news is it's going to be preserved. It's not going to be sold off to be apartments and things like that. The other part, which was really interesting, and I had a chance to tour this, is as you're going down Route 5, you pass a place, and you're heading east, and there is 4 Mile Creek Park, which is part of the Newmarket battlefield, called Battle of Newmarket, which is in Verina. And just after you pass the park, on the right-hand side, I went for a walking tour because we have that battle, that anniversary of that battle getting ready to come up here. And there's actually an event going to be out at Fort Harrison on the 27th that commemorates the Battle of Fort Harrison. Battle of Fort Harrison.
Hey, Sully.
And the Battle of Newmarket Heights. And those were side by side and fought in September. And what makes those battles important is the first time that, well, not the first time, but it was important because the U.S. colored troops moved in and helped take Fort Harrison. And it's Fort Harrison was a large fort at the time that helped protect the east of Richmond. And if that falls, then you pretty much can go all the way to Richmond down, you know. But what happened was, as Fort Harrison falls, Lee, who was down in Petersburg with the battle, you know, and the trench warfare down there in Petersburg, he takes 10,000 defense and marches back up to Fort Harrison to take it, and he can't take it. And then he realizes that he needs to go back to Petersburg to help save Petersburg. And so Fort Harrison stays. That battle's fought. You can tour that Fort Harrison fort. It is in great condition. That whole area is full of. If anybody wants to go, I can take them out there and show them things in the woods that most people didn't even know existed. Trenches and all these key parts of that battle. But what's important is you're going down Route 5 and you just pass 4 Mile Creek Park. To the right, there was a piece of property owned by a quarry. It had a quarry. It was owned by, I can't remember who it was. But this, you would never know it's there. It's a little driveway that leads up into the woods. And we took a tour. We had done a historical presentation for the Battle of Newmarket Heights. And they took us over there. They said, you're going to be the first people to see this. And so we had a police escort that cut off Route 5 for us to cross over Route 5 through the ditches, over onto Route 5, and then through the other ditches and up into the woods. And then you go into the woods, there's like an old graveled driveway. It's basically cut out of the woods now. But we went back in there and come across, and there's some trenches in there. And he said, this is where a defense was set up, and the U.S. colored troops and some Union forces came and took it. And there were several Medal of Honor winners that came out of that fight that were first time were colored troops who got the Medal of Honor. And they are they're collecting money to build a statue there to honor the U.S. colored troops. Now, why it's important is because it was a very important battle. But why do you think most people have never heard of that in Virginia, that battle? Well, it's obvious that in growing up in the 50s and 60s, that a history book would not mention anything good about U.S. colored troops or anything that they did good. And that's where, unfortunately, they dictated to us what we were going to learn. And now all this stuff is coming out about the how important that battle was. And they want to honor by putting up a gathering money. They've already got the person that's going to be the sculptor of it, and it's going to cost a lot of bit of money. Now, the cool thing is, where I'm getting to is the county of Henrico has also stepped up, and they're building a park, and it's going to be around that quarry. They're going to have it as fill it in, and it's going to be like a lake. So there's going to be trails around the lake, and they'll have history markers all through that. That battle went from there over to Fort Harrison, which is just, a half mile to a mile away, basically. And all caught in like a day or two. That's how close these battles were. That event at Fort Harrison's on the 27th. I encourage everyone that can go do it. You'll really like the presentation that they'll do out there. and they'll have a lot of historians out there to kind of not only park rangers from the Richmond National Battlefield Park, but also some other historians, famous historians, Virginia historians will be out there. I met several of them last year. They've all written books and things like that. And I met a guy that's written a book on the Battle of Newmarket Heights. And so it's a piece of history we've kind of brought back. Now, the cool thing is that's two major pieces of property pretty close to each other in Varina that are going to be large land purchases that are going to be saved for historical reasons. Very
Thank
large
goodness.
pieces. Yes. So you won't ever have those developed. And they did that with 4 Mile Creek Park and the Capitol Trail, that runs down Route 5 all the way from Richmond to Jamestown. And that's 60 miles of trail. And the walking trails that'll be around these things. It's going to be a great place to go. It'll be interesting how they do the historical part of the Newmarket Heights battlefield, because that is still the site of many unfound graves. So it is an active burial place that they will not go in and remove any more bodies. They'll just leave them where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
Which I just wanted to let people know about that. I try to let people know about it as much as I can, because those kind of things need our support too. And
right.
But
That's
if
right.
you're living in Richmond, it just kind of gives you another reason why you can appreciate everything that's happened here, and why things may get crazy sometimes in investigations.
Hey, Daryl.
When we have the land out at the cabin
Hey, Daryl.
being on battlefield, can you imagine what in some of these other places that have a lot of the same thing happening, because it's blood drenched ground, and people died there, and people died horrible deaths, but yet we have that saved and not built over. And Donna, my sister, had come down last weekend. We went to Cold Harbor, is one of the places we went. We hadn't been out there in a while. And I told her a few historical stories. And we took a drive through the battlefield, around the roads. And then we got to this place, and I said, the reason they let a lot of things grow up and they won't cut it down is to preserve the earthworks that they have there. They let the trees grow up so that the earthworks were disappearing when they were cutting all the grass and all the weeds and everything. And the earthworks were just shrinking by the year. And they're trying to keep that around as long as possible.
Right.
The other thing about a lot of part of that battlefield is that they've since discovered that a lot of burials out there that they know of, but they will not dig them up and move them to another battlefield. They'll leave them right where they're at, where they fell. We learned that when Donna and I also went to the Shelton House there off Studley Road. Shelton House, Sarah Shelton married Patrick Henry in that house. And that house is still there. It was lived in until the 1980s. And it went under disrepair, but it was the Union forces. This is on the northern end of the Cold Harbor battle, 7 miles away from Cold Harbor, at the Shelton House. They put their defenses around that house. The family would not leave. The Shelton's family would not leave. They stayed in the basement. And what happened was, as the war went on, as the house was getting shelled, the family was still safe down in the basement. only because the house, in some places, the brick is 3 feet thick. So it was built to be almost like a fortress, built in the mid 1700s. That house is very haunted, by the way, but they will never allow investigations to go on there, is what I've been told.
That's too bad.
Yeah. Now, what they have found is there is a cemetery on the property. There's still 4 graves, I believe, there, or 4 headstones, let's say. Most of the burials, most of the people that were buried there were removed in the 60s and moved to Hollywood Cemetery and reburied there.
Who knew?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
So, but what they didn't know was how many they left behind, because they removed the headstones and didn't take the bodies. So when you go back into the woods and you see those 4 graves or whatever, 3 or 4 graves, the hill, it goes down to a creek, but it's a slow step down in both directions, down to a low bottom. But along that grows that ivy that is found in cemeteries. But they believe that part of that is a slave cemetery, which they would not have had any kind of gravestone. They would have had a rock or something like that, or wood. But there were other family and other people that had been buried there, even Civil War soldiers. They're going to go in with ground penetrating radar at some point. This is what a ranger told me. And they're going to try to see what is there, still there.
Mm-hmm.
And there are other parts on that battlefield that they know is an active burial place. And they want to go and identify, not that they will ever move them,
right?
But they want to be able to honor the people. Now, so when you go out to a place like that, it's called Rural Plains, is what the original name of the house is, but everybody calls it the Shelton House. It's in Mechanicsville. It's off of Studley Road. And Rural Plains, I don't know how many acres it is, 300, 400 acres or something they have out there. It's a great place to go out and walk around, and people get their pictures taken out there and everything. But I've gone out there and investigated during the day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've gone down to the grave areas, and I've gone into the woods and stuff like that. I've gone to the places where they have trenches in the woods. And so I don't know if I'm supposed to say any of that. Nobody's going to run me off because it's the middle of the day.
Well,
but
300 acres, right?
It's a lot of land.
Yeah, I was looking at it, looking at the history of it as you were talking. You know, I'm going to look it up because it's going to bother me. 300 acres.
Yeah, just look up if y'all are ever interested in going. It's a great place to go out and visit. They have now in September is going to be the last time that they offer free tours on Saturday and Sunday from 12 to 3, and then they will not do it again until like next April.
According to Wikipedia, it's 125 acres.
Really?
Yeah.
But it is a battlefield, and it is part of the Cold Harbor campaign because everything went south from there. And it was the Battle of Topotomy Creek is what it was called. The other thing I wanted to mention was Dr. Meldrum died this week on 9/11. Dr. Meldrum was the renowned expert on Bigfoot in this world. I would say probably had more respect among the scientific community than anyone that has ever had. He took it to a whole new level. And what he was an anthropologist, but his specialty was in how people and animals and mammals and apes and gorillas walk. that was his specialty.
Huh.
So when he could look at a cast of an imprint, he could tell whether it was fake or not, just by certain things that he looks for. And he'd had in his collection, I believe, about 20,000 casts. And he did have some that he considered were absolutely 100% what he felt would be legitimate truth. I had a chance to talk to Dr. Meldrum at one of the at the Ohio Bigfoot conference about 5 years ago. Listened to him talk. He had me amazed. You know, he was so nerdy, like a college professor can be, and really in depth, but he had a way of just making somebody like me understand it.
Right.
So when he could throw up something like a foot up on the screen and talk about it, it was making sense, because then he'd back it up with video and he'd say, now look at this movement, look at this movement, look at this foot. This is what I'm talking about, you know, and stuff like that. So he had a brain, he was discovered that he had brain cancer, and he died very quickly. But he had just done a Bigfoot conference this summer. He had done several. He was probably the most wanted person on the circuit. If you wanted your Bigfoot conference to be world renowned and have a good turnout, you just had to pay the man to show up. And he'd come and give his talk and meet guests afterwards and sell his books and sign autographs, take his picture with you, things like that. And he was a professor at Idaho State University. So we lost a good one there. I wanted to get into a little bit before it gets too late here, just some of the events that are going to be coming up. And I don't mean to talk the entire time on this show, but I feel like y'all missed me last time, so I get to come in and go a little bit. I'm not going to go into a lot of depth. There's a ghost walk at the cabin tomorrow night, so that's what I wanted to talk about. But there's also, if you miss tomorrow night, there's several. If you go to the link, and I'm talking about the Cabin on 360 in Mechanicsville, Virginia. Join that page. Go check it out. But there is what they call it. He's doing the ghost walk at night at the Cabin on 360, and there are several nights he's doing it. Going all the way through October, and so tickets are $20, and I think there's like a $3 fee added to that. And then also this weekend, Tennessee Ray Chasers will be at the Cabin on 360. They're coming in on they're going to do a 2-night event, Friday night and Saturday night, and into Sunday. And this is the second time they've been to the Cabin, I think.
Think so, yeah.
But they came up one other time, and no one, they just toured it and everything like that, and they really liked it, and they invited them back. This will be a well attended event. And for all those that have been to the Cabin, you do have some acreage you can cover and some places you can go where you're not all on top of each other. So that is, again, Haunted Nights sponsoring that and putting that all together, bringing Chris and Mike from the Tennessee Wraith Chasers into town once again, but this time at the Cabin on 360, and tickets are still available for both nights. Then on the 20th at Castlewood in Chesterfield, Castlewood is a historical home right near Chesterfield, the old Chesterfield courthouse grounds. And Castlewood has been many things. It's a very old historic home. It was a bank at one time. And that was like in the 80s. And then it served as and it still might be part of their historical society or something like that. But it is active. And so they are having an event put on by Flaberi, is having that event at Castlewood in Chesterfield. So if you're looking for something to do on the 20th, this Saturday night, you can do that. Next weekend, on the 26th through the 28th, Sage Paracon in King George at Bell Grove Plantation.
Nice.
So tickets are still available for that. Many speakers. It's a Paracon, but it's a different type of Paracon. There won't be a lot of people there. They limit the amount of tickets that they sell, but you'll have really up close and personal association with the people that are speakers, and you get a lot of things for going to that, and that's worth checking out. A couple of our friends, Kim Sage will be a presenter there. John Sullivan and his group will be there, so that'll be great. And then on the 27th is Mom's Night Out at the Cabin on 360. I tell you, Dennis is going hog wild. This is the season. September and October is cabin season.
Hello, Ryan.
People didn't know. So there's also, you'll notice how many things are on the 27th. I had mentioned already about that presentation out at Fort Harrison.
Right.
That's a historical thing. That's not going to be paranormal. Okay.
I got to work that whole day. I got to work that whole weekend.
But that night, the 27th, that Saturday night, out at Sailors Creek Battlefield out near Farmville, they're going to have an event, and I forgot what they called it. It's a paranormal event, but they are going to be presenting people, and this is a free event, by the way. Our friends at CPRI, Brad Bradley and his group, presenting evidence that they've captured out there at the Hillsman's house. Now, I went to the Hillman's house this summer and got to tour it for the very first time, and it's amazing. But when you walk in the door, you're just not going to believe this. When you walk in the door, you're in this little room, and there's a cot, a wooden cot, right next to the door. Okay. And on that cot, the surgeon cut off limbs and tried to save people, but he cut off a lot of limbs. In fact, they were throwing them out into the pile right out the door. He'd open the door and throw the limb out into the yard. It is on the middle of the battlefield of Sailors Creek Battle. Now, what's cool about all this is when you look down at the floors are all original. But when you look down at the floor, you'll see blood stains, but you'll see two footprints standing by that table where he stood for hours working on humans and sawing limbs, to the point where he was standing in blood for so long that his footprints left an impression in the wood. And you can see two footprints in that wood that's never gone away after all these years. We went down into the basement, into the cellar, and used a black light, and you can see where the blood had run down through the floorboards and left that it looks yellow with a black light, and you can see it all through the wood up underneath in the cellar, just by looking straight up and shine that light. It is really cool. I felt a presence in that house, by the way. The other thing that's happening on the 27th out at St. Luke's Church in Smithfield is a guy is going to be doing a presentation on witches. which I find is very fascinating. But it's a historical presentation on witches in colonial America and how even we think of Salem witch trials and things like that and all of that was happening. We're talking about almost about the same time frame as it was happening kind of here too. And what we thought of witches and what the church thought of witches and how they treated people who they thought were witches. That presentation is going to be held at St. Luke's at 7 p.m. in Smithfield, Virginia. If you've ever been to St. Luke's, that's one of those old historic churches that you see. There's Episcopal churches, and it's very beautiful inside. On the 4th of October, we have the Fleetwood Paracon out at Brandy Station. It sits right next to a great place where you'll be able to go and visit as well. But not part of the Fleetwood Paracon is the Graffiti House. So Fleetwood Church is right next to the Graffiti House. And so that Paracon will be going on the 4th. The 12th through the 14th, there's a Ghost Walk, $25 tour out at Hanover Courthouse. So for 3 nights, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday night, 3 nights. Tours running from 7 till 9. They run several tours during that time on those 3 nights called a Ghost Walk at night out at Hanover Courthouse. And then on the 25th of October, there's other things. I'm going to leave them out for now. But the 25th of October, Bacon's Castle is going to be doing their ghost tours. Now, they have 3 different types of tours. They have a grounds tour, they have a normal house tour, and then they have a house tour plus, which you'll get to go around with Brad Bradley with CPRI, who's done a lot of work out there, more than anybody else. His team has gone in there and many times, and they probably have more evidence from that house than anyone else has ever gathered in a house in America. I'm telling you, they're out there all the time, and they set up all their equipment and then leave, and they sit out in the yard and watch all their monitors, and they capture all kinds of stuff. Some of the stuff that they've captured has been unbelievable. You're talking about when you hear a child laugh and no one's in the house at 2 a.m. in the morning, and you hear that child laugh, it'll just, makes me chill just to think about it. This segues into what I want to ask, and people in the that may be still listening to me ramble on. What I came across a couple of videos of most haunted places in Virginia. So on one of them, I don't think they were far off, but it does kind of get political. So on one of them, they had Cold Harbor, which I totally agree with. Okay. Well, you know what was second on that list out of I think 5 places?
Better not been the Peyton Randolph house.
It was Roswell. That was number 2 on the list.
Interesting.
And then number 3 on the list was the Martha Washington Inn in Abington. Now, I've heard that place. Now, I've never been there. So anybody that's been there, maybe you can attest to that. This was an interesting one, is they listed Monticello. Now, you can't investigate Monticello. You can't be in there at dark. The only time you can be there at dark is they sometimes do Christmas tours at night. Mm-hmm. But that's the only time, and that's been something just recent.
Right, but that's the same thing with Roswell. They don't let you investigate there. That new group where everything's a liability. So now they got cameras everywhere. People follow you everywhere. You can't sit like you used to by yourself anywhere because you got to have a babysitter babysit you. So I don't understand that one.
But I will say though that with Roswell, they do the ghost tours. Okay, so they do
Right.
tell ghost stories, and that one year we get to go down in that cellar. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, but that's the last time they allowed us to do that.
Yeah.
You
Now,
know, I mean, you feel stuff there, but like capturing actual evidence there, I don't see a lot of it
um,
because I'm looking for evidence, not stories.
right. Well,
That's just weird. I'm sorry.
we might have
Considering
to. They might change that. I don't know. The pictures from what I've looked at is they've done a lot of cleanup, so there's no longer like a lot of weeds and stuff like that. I don't know if they're trying to make it more approachable, or I don't know.
yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful place. If you haven't been,
Yeah.
it's beautiful, you know, but they're just so strict with stuff.
Well, so on another video, uh, the first one they led off with was the public gallows down in Williamsburg, which I thought was pretty cool because I've been there and I think it is haunted. They also did the George Wythe House, which is part of everybody's ghost tour that goes through Williamsburg. They talk about the George Wythe House.
Mm-hmm.
The other one that they obviously mentioned is the Peyton Randolph House. Now that ended up being number one on their list. But the thing is, now the thing is, and Brandon Johnson and I totally agree on this, is he gets mad when they mention that because he said no one can ever investigate there. So how can you say that's one of the most haunted places in Virginia when nobody gets to investigate?
Right.
You're just going off of some stories about people that used to work there, but since then no one's been in there and seen or experienced anything. Come on.
Right.
I'm not saying it's not haunted, but
Right.
Yeah, and the thing that gets me about these most haunted lists, majority of the lists are made up by people that have nothing to do with the paranormal field.
Well, and also that are not from Virginia. So
Yeah.
that's a big no for me because I can tell you what, you know how you know somebody's not from Virginia? When they mispronounce Henrico as Henrico, when they call it Henricus Park, instead of Henricus, when they mention it as, what was the other one? I just laughed when I heard it. I couldn't believe they.
No fuck.
But they did, on one of the lists, they listed the Exchange Hotel, which I totally agree.
Well, that one I would. Yeah.
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 And then they also listed I'm trying to think. The Fairy Plantation. So I've heard things about that, but I don't even know if you can investigate there anymore. Used to be people investigated there all the time, but I don't think you can do that anymore.
Right.
So the reason I checked on that was because a friend of mine said that they had seen these videos on YouTube, and there are a lot of videos about haunted places in Virginia. Right. I didn't really have a problem with some of the places listed. Other than the Peyton Randolph House is going to show up on all those lists, but again, we have problems with that. I don't have a problem with them putting a place like St. Albans on there because they did. A lot of them had that number one on their list.
Right. That I can see though, but the other ones like Roswell, Randolph, Peyton, or whatever, they don't.
And like the other one was Eastern State or Central State, the one in Williamsburg, that no one can. You can't even get near it.
No. You might be able to drive by it, but if you do, security is going to come in behind you because I've already experienced that when Vicente ran cross country there. They had their events there, and that was the closest to the old place that I was allowed to get because they had districts there, and they don't even do that there anymore. So,
Well, there was a lot like Cavalier Hotel in Virginia Beach. I've
that I can see.
I've always heard that is, even years ago when I took what was it? It was a psychology class, and my professor brought that up about the haunting at Cavalier Hotel in Virginia Beach, and I was like, I've been to Virginia Beach. I don't remember this place. And he talked about, I forgot who that famous person was that was living there at the time, living on one of the floors, and he was a lot of his predictions came true and things like that. And he died. But he had talked about the reason he had brought it up was how people, at the time, he was talking about how people can talk themselves into just about anything. And then he said, a lot of times people see ghosts. It's what they want to see. But then he said, however, then you take a place like the Cavalier Hotel, which I think is very haunted. And I was just like, I kind of woke up out of this class. And at that point, I was listening.
Yeah, but you are right about that. Dave and I talk about that, about the manor house all the time when people come in there and they get their cells all worked up that it's, something so scary and there's ghosts everywhere. And I think they work themselves up to where they think they're seeing something sometimes and they're really not, because they're so worked up from, maybe watching shows. And a lot of people come in and think that our tour is like the TV show, when it's not.
Yeah.
It's funny when you have people walk up to you and ask you, certain questions about things, and do you ever get scared and certain things like that, and they mistake it for ghost hunting shows and we're like, no.
Well, I will say this: I do follow some people that do. There's this one group that does in Alton, Illinois, does their ghost tours, and they have 3 or 4 locations that they set up tours for, and they have conferences and things like that. And I'm thinking, ain't nobody going to Alton, Illinois, that unless they live in Illinois.
Yeah.
And they can't touch what we have here. I mean, they really can't.
No, Ronnie said investigations are actually boring. He said, I think Alan May had stayed there a couple of nights, if I'm not mistaken. He had a couple of interesting stories. Yeah, that's,
Investigations can be boring until you get something. Then it's like my golf game. I can if my best shot of the day is my last shot, unfortunately, I'll be back out there again. I played like crap all day long, but if that last shot is good, I'll be like, makes me think I can actually play this game.
Right.
What a fool that is. And sort of like investigating, you can capture some good evidence. It's fun. And then that's just going to bring you back out again. They keep pulling me back in.
Yeah. We tell people all the time, majority of the investigations are really boring. Most time you're standing in the dark talking to yourself.
Yeah.
But it's when you do capture something, because we record everything, so we have to review our recordings, and it's when you hear a response to a question, or you see something on a video or on a still picture that makes you come back for more.
Right.
One time I got embarrassed at work. We were in a Zoom meeting, and it's like 20 people in the thing, and everybody's kind of going around, and somebody just out of the blue goes, because people are talking about their kids, their grandkids, what they do for a living, what do they do for fun? And then somebody goes, y'all know that John is a ghost hunter? And everybody like stopped. And I was like, I was kind of like shocked, because I was put up kind of, they just kind of announced it without telling me they were going to say anything like that. And I was like stunned. And so somebody said, "Really, John? Well, tell us a little bit about it." And I'm saying, "Well, I tell you, it's not really all it's cracked up to be. You kind of sit around in some cold, dark places, and you're just kind of, sometimes you're can be in a very bad place. It's dark,
You
and
sleep.
sometimes sometimes you nod off. Sometimes you get a headache. Sometimes you're tired. It's just can be boring. It can be lifeless. It can be just nothing is happening. And I said, and what I've just described is my second wife. And they all busted out laughing. I'm just kidding if she's listening. But
You're fired.
Man, that was my first wife.
Yeah, I meant to say my second marriage, but that's what I meant. And so everybody kind of laughed at that. I said, "Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I mean, are you prepared to spend 6 hours sitting on your butt in a cold, dark place, hoping that you're going to get something?" So
That's funny.
it was a pleasure again, guys.
We appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
When is the next time I'll be on here?
In October.
Yep, in October.
13th to
So 20th? It's going to
20th?
be the 21st.
The 21st.
October 21st.
What is
you will
going
be coming on to Vibe Time with Geri. Excuse me.
You didn't do the drum roll at one night. Set you up with a good joke. Should have hit the. There you go. I need to have that on my end so I can hit it.
Exactly. Well, you guys, next week we are not having Metaphysical Hour because we are having Forgotten Explorations come on because they want to talk about some of the things that they are doing. Yes, can we get a Forgotten Exploration? So, like I said, normally we would do Metaphysical Hour the 4th, the last Thursday or the 4th Thursday of the month, but Forgotten Explorations will be joining us. Yeah.
Well, I tell you, that's worth checking out because those guys stay busy and are doing a lot of good stuff.
Yes. Yeah. We love our Forgotten Explorations.
They need to get back. I know they were out at the cabin. I mean, out of the manor house. What, a few months ago?
They're coming back out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Y'all let me know when they're coming, and I want to come out there too.
They're coming out what?
October 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
October 3rd.
That's a Friday.
All right. Well, I'll just have to put it on my calendar. Just to come by and say hi.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would like that.
Yeah.
No. Well, you guys, we appreciate everybody joining us this evening. And John Stevens, as usual, we appreciate you coming on every third Tuesday and taking off, your schedule and giving us some good history that we don't always get. And of course, the events. And if you happen to miss any events, just please put it in the comments, or y'all go to Virginia Paranormal Events. That's where we send everybody to get the latest events of what's going on in the state.
Yep.
So we'll see y'all next week with Forgotten Explorations. We hope that y'all have a great night. And thank you.
Good night, everybody.
See ya.
Bye-bye. Tschüss. Auf